Our meeting started today. I'd like to ask Commissioner Lowry to lead us in the pledge of allegiance, and I'll send a prayer for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this great city that you allowed us to live in. We want you to be with us today as we go through the city business. We ask that you give us wisdom in everything that we do. We ask in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. I now call this meeting of the Port St. Clair City Commission to order. We got about 3 different agendas to approve. Special minutes, workshop, and I think a regular meeting. We'll approve them all at one time if we can. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve those at this time?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hoffman.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Lowry. Any further discussion? Motion passes 5-0. We got a building update today. Come on up.
Since October 10th, we've had 47 demolition permits, 240 residential re-roof permits, 38 commercial re-roofs, 193 residential remodels, 13 commercial remodels, 34 temporary power poles, 76 electric service repairs, 11 accessory structures, 5 new single-family structures, 23 temporary structure permits, and 17 increased cost of compliance letters.
Could I get you to email me that to my government email?
Yeah,
Copy
absolutely.
of that.
Yeah, we have to. Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. First up is ordinance 552, floodplain management. I would ask the board for a motion for a second reading of ordinance 552.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Lowry, have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 4-0.
Ordinance number 552, an ordinance by the Board of City Commissioners of the City of Port St. Joe to repeal and reserve Code of Ordinance Chapter 36, Flood Prevention and Control, Ordinance 336, to amend LDR 1.03 definitions, to amend LDR 1.06 same, specific intent relating to various subject areas of the code, to repeal LDR section 4.17 through 4.22, to adopt new LDR sections 4.17 through 4.30, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, and for other purposes providing for applicability, severability, and an effective date. This is the ordinance that Mr. Anderson, myself, and which was the agency?
Department of Emergency.
Yeah, DEM, thank you. DEM worked together for the implementation and updating post-Hurricane Michael. DEM is fairly insistent that the city adopt this. We've tried to do it in a manner that was least restrictive, essentially following Florida building code and not making anything more restrictive than what was already required under the Florida building code where possible. So at this time, it would be up to the board to adopt or to consider adopting ordinance 552.
We need a motion now to do that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anyone have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, Commissioner Langston. We have a second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, ordinance 553, large-scale plan amendment. Give me just 1 second. I will be asking the commission to allow for the first reading of this ordinance. It pertains to 19 acres in the North Port St. Joe area. So if I could have a motion for the first reading of this ordinance.
We have a motion from Commissioner Lowry. Have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 4-0.
In And just before we have the first reading, we have here present Ray Greer, the city planner, that did a lot of work, lead work on this item. If the board would like to hear from Mr. Greer as it relates to ordinance 553 and the first reading thereof.
Sure, come on up.
We'll set these up here so you can
Sure.
the area. I'm Ray Greer. I'm the land use planner with Stantec. My address is 2910 Cary Forest Parkway, Tallahassee, Florida. This is a large-scale land use amendment, so this is the transmittal hearing. What we'll do is transmit it today to the state agencies. The state agencies will review it. They'll send us back any comments, and in another 30 days, we'll bring it back to you for the actual adoption. So this is the first reading. The second reading will be the actual adoption of it. But what we did, we created a land use category for this area. This is the North Port St. Joe area. It's about 18 acres. This is the area we did the workshop on. I know a lot of y'all came to that workshop. Since that workshop, we've also sent out notices. The city has noticed every landowner inside the 18 acres of the land use change and what was going to take place with this land use change. And the land use change, of course, is based on the master plan that was developed by the North Port St. Joe PAC. And in that visioning process that they did, they gave us kind of their parameters of what they were looking for. We developed a land use category form because your comp plan did not have one that actually would fit this site. And what this land use category does, it's a mixed use category, and it sets up the density, bumps the densities up to 30 units an acre by right, and then you can achieve through a mix of use, you can achieve up to 40 units an acre. And that is the density that the area was looking for in their visioning plan. They wanted a smaller lot, more dense development in there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to transmit this amendment, and we're going to bring you back the actual zoning and what we're going to do to an overlay district to implement the zoning for it. So in another month, as this is being reviewed by the state, we'll bring you back an overlay district to actually implement through zoning. So as we move forward for adoption, they'll come together, the overlay and the comp plan. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have on it.
What was the results on the mail out when you sent letters to all of the business owners in the affected area? I'm just curious as to.
And I don't believe they got any.
That is correct. We did not
Anything
get
back,
anything back in writing. Did we get one back?
Oh,
We
one.
could get an address on.
An address, but we didn't
Yes,
get
so we didn't
anything.
get any
Nothing,
objections,
no
no.
objections.
Wow, that's good to hear.
Because what we were going to do was take, if anybody objected to it, of course, we were going to leave that area out and change the area around it or reshape the boundaries.
Right. To me, I think the community, the entire community of Port St. Joe is actually grasping what we're trying to achieve. So it's exciting to hear that we had virtually no one in opposition to that.
Yeah, and I think, it's been vetted, the workshops, the mail outs, I think we went above and beyond any type of requirement to get the
Yes.
word out.
Yes, sir, yeah. And it's a great plan, and it's inside the CRA. It is, this area has developed an overall vision for this particular area. This actually implements it. It's a great tool for them to be able to use for redevelopment.
I think it's showing that the people in Port St. Joe, they're trying to move forward with redeveloping this area, which has been blighted for a long time. I think it's a good thing for the entire community. I really do. I appreciate it, Ray, what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you putting time in on this.
Sure. We need a motion on this today?
I've got to complete the first
All right,
reading.
go ahead.
Ordinance 553, an ordinance amending comprehensive plan of the city of Port St. Joe, specifically to adopt town-initiated text amendment to, 1, establish a North Port St. Joe mixed-use future land use category to the future land use element, and 2, to adopt town-initiated future land use map change to redesignate 18 acres of mixed-use industrial and residential R2B future land use to North Port St. Joe mixed-use future land use, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. We would also ask that the board consider allowing the city staff to transmit this to DEO, and we would need approval from the city commission to do that.
All right. We have a motion.
I'm so moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner Langston. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Lowry. Any further discussion? Anyone in the audience have any discussion on this?
I would like to say something else too. The PAC, Port St. Joe, they have really been pushing hard for this, and they've been doing an excellent job. And it's really coming to fruition of what they've been working for years and years. I just came in and started going to the meetings, and it's a lot of good things that they're trying to do, not just within the boundaries of North Port St. Joe, but within the whole community, and that's what it's about. And I'd like to thank them for all the time and effort that they're putting in.
Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 4-0. And let me say at this time that Commissioner Ashbrook is up in Tallahassee hanging out with the legislatures. So he's doing work up there today. All right, motion carries 4-0.
Next for the Commission's consideration is Resolution 2019-04 SRF loan application. I would like to make a reading of the resolution, and then the board can consider whether or not to adopt. Resolution 2019-04, a resolution of the City of Port St. Joe relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan application, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designating authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Anybody entertain a motion?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Commissioner Lowry. Second?
I second.
Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries 4-0.
Next, before the Commission for consideration and adoption is Resolution 2019-05, Centennial Building Restoration Grant. Again, I'll read the resolution for consideration by the Commission. Resolution 2019-05, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Port St. Joe authorizing a grant application for the Centennial Building, providing for a funding source for any required match, appointing and authorizing a designated project contact, authorizing the city manager to act on behalf of the city, providing for repeal, and providing for an effective date.
And this is for a grant where we'll provide matching funds?
Yes, sir. That one has remember the maximum
No,
amount?
We're a ready community, so we only have to do 25%, which will come to about 72,000, which is a little over 1,000 more than what it was last year when we asked for it.
And where will we get this money from if it goes through?
Mayor, the recommendation would be to move forward with your budget next year and to also utilize the insurance money.
Okay. All right. So we got a motion on the floor and a second, correct?
I'll make the motion.
All right, the motion from Commissioner Hoffman,
I'll second.
second from Commissioner Lowry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Changed up on me. All right, motion passes 4-0.
Last issue to bring before the Commission under City Attorney's heading is the boat dockage agreement or boat dockage agreement out here at our marina. I have spoken to George Gonzalez, the president of the St. Joe Company. I've spoken to their council. Their council and I and Mr. Anderson were supposed to meet out there today to lay eyes on it. Council was unable to make it last minute, but we will reschedule hopefully within the next week or 10 days. In my conversations with Mr. Gonzalez with the St. Joe Company, he's reiterated it's his feeling that he will work with the city in any way possible. In my conversations with their attorney, they are supposed to be expediting their plans for recovery to try and work a method for the recreational and charter boats or the charter boats, I should say, to have ingress and egress out of there along with their ongoing work. So I believe that we're making productive forward progress on that.
Do you have any information on where we are as far as power and water being available at the city bulkhead area?
Mr. Ansel, could I?
Yeah, if we could get
I did, Commissioner Hoffman. I did meet with Dwayne Butler from Duke Energy a few weeks ago and actually called him yesterday for an update. And he is still in the process of getting the plan, I guess, to his engineering department to, I guess, review the work and then schedule. I don't have an update more than that as far as when the work could begin. It could be weeks. I don't know. Now, from a water perspective, that would be on us. And we haven't looked at, Mr. Anderson and I spoke about trying to reroute the water through because right now the restrooms are fed off of the marina's property. So we would have to run a separate line to independently run our own facilities. But, we can certainly look at that and come back with a price.
I think that probably would be wise of the city, based on the preliminary map drawing that I saw the other day of the expansion of the marina and the plans that they have. Right. I think it would probably be wise of the city to go ahead and look at having our own water source run down there. I know that in the past we've talked about specifically the allowing the Fishing Express back to bulkhead, which I don't know if the new boat will be called that, but anyway, that particular captain having access to our bulkhead. I've also been contacted by and will be supporting the idea of Captain Danny Tankersley, formerly of the Lady J. Right. He had a spot at the marina, and I think it was the only slip not destroyed, but he's going to be asking the city, and I will be supporting the idea to look at the possibility of him putting his lift slip down there the side, probably in front of the Fishing Express space. So that's something I'll just go ahead and say that out of all the captains and local fishermen, Tankersley has probably been here the longest, so it'd be hard for us not to support that.
Right, I agree.
But we're going to have power and water, obviously, so something to keep in mind.
Yes, sir. I'll keep you updated as to the power situation, and I'll start working towards the water.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I have no further updates.
All right. Jim?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
Over to you.
Continuing the hurricane recovery efforts. We have received another check from our insurance company. We're continuing to work through putting out items for bid for repairs. We did sign the agreement for the roof to be repaired down at Lighthouse Cooper's quarters. Mr. Smallwood has worked on the docking or the walking bridges in the park system above Griffin Lake. So those are being worked on too. So things are moving along at a pretty good clip. The one thing we need to remember too is the FEMA Disaster Recovery Centers are planning to close at the end of the month. So if anybody needs to see somebody one-on-one, please go down. We have 2 locations at the Washington Gym and at the fire station, but the plan is to close those to the end of the month. The next item is the debris removal. The deadline for citizens to put it out by the road has passed. That was Friday. You will still see the trucks in town. There's still numerous piles that need to be picked up. But as far as the date for people to put it out from this point on, it should be only the standard debris piles, small C and D. Anything besides that is going to fall under code enforcement. So we've got to get people back into realizing that we only pick up the yard debris and the small piles. Any other questions for staff on that?
Do you know when the last day the trucks will actually be running?
I was told the last day the truck would be running would be April the 15th, the last time we see a truck in town.
Yeah, I've heard too that they're going to bring all the trucks they have, or they can bring in, to get the stuff picked up as quickly as possible.
Yep. And I did talk to Mr. Hammond this morning. The plan is to work back through our parks. So we are going to get help to get our parks to go back through again, back in our parks. So Mr. Grant and myself and Mr. Hammond are going to be working to go back through all our parks.
I think it'd be wise to have our code enforcement officer spend some time making a list of where we still have large piles of debris. I know that I spoke to you about making sure we don't forget that. It was picked up down off of Marvin, and now it's on that little alley road, I guess you could call it. I don't remember what the block is, somewhere around 16th, I'm thinking, 13th, but there was several families that brought things to that access. We assured them they'd be picked up.
They did, and I actually saw them, they were on a Sunday morning clearing it out, so there may be a pile again, but a few weeks ago I did check that, and they were actually working on a Sunday morning clearing it out.
The last thing we want to happen is the trucks leave and then we discover, oh, well, you know, this pile was obviously there when it was supposed to be, and we just failed to have it picked up. So,
I agree.
How are they gonna decide if this house put this here this day and it was after the 15th or whenever they're supposed to put it out there? How you gonna,
From what I was told, they went Friday, they were filming. They actually were supposed to go out and film and go road to road, is what I was told. And then we're trying to work back through a map. What we need to have is a map to come back to us and say, okay, we made our last pass on Long Avenue. So then at that point, we know that road will be turned back over to the city. At that point, that we'll start falling back on our normal process. So that's what we're waiting on.
are we doing, I know we had talked about having code enforcement do filming as well. Are we doing that, or are we?
We did go out and check the big piles. He has a list of all the piles. Mr. Burke and I did talk last week that he went out there and he knows where all these big piles are. He's kept a record of most of this big stuff out there.
I mean, I'm gonna try and be as lenient as possible. I know that that's a stiff deadline, but I mean, if we can help the people that, you know, someone I'm sure was one day late. And I hate to think that, you know, now we can't do anything to help them at all.
The big challenge is going to be the yard debris. We have a laydown yard, but anything outside of that, we got to pay for tipping fees. And that's the
Concrete, stuff like that.
yeah, that's what's so costly.
Yeah, so I guess we should do our own filming. I don't know any way around it.
It's going to be tough.
It's just gonna be tough knowing that somebody was waiting on insurance and they had to tear the house down on 16th. But obviously the city can't afford it. We don't even have the equipment to do that.
That's it. Yes. One question on that. The next item is consumer confidence report. We briefly discussed that. That is in reference to our water quality report. We did pass all of our tests on the water quality report. We just want to make sure everybody knows it is available on the city website, and a hard copy can be picked up at City Hall. The last item I have is in reference to Capital City Bank. A few months ago, the board did give a temporary structure permit for Capital City Bank and Frank Pay Park. They're asking for an additional extension of this.
From the email I read, and if I read it wrong, guys, you can help me out here. It said they were asking for a 6-month extension. And then they went on to say, and we may need another 6 after that. My feeling is, you know, I'm okay with the 6-month extension. I'm not okay with an additional or a possibility of a year extension. So if the email is really asking for a year, I have a problem with that. I think that we've been very hospitable in allowing them to set up a temporary site, but I think we need to inspire them a little to get with the program and make a decision, because the email talked about they were looking at property and they might buy it, they might not. Well, they need to make a decision. And
Is their whole building pretty much where they can't get back in it? They gonna have to go somewhere else?
I think that's part of their decision. Their people just don't want to decide, let's continue to refurbish the existing structure. And they're kind of like, we don't know what we want to do. But my thinking is, in 6 months' time, they can decide what they need to do. I want to support them as a local bank, obviously, but we need to encourage them to make a decision and get busy. So I'm good with the 6-month extension. I'm not good with the year's worth, so.
Now, we just let them sit up there, we're not getting any rental or anything like that, are we?
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I agree with you, Commissioner. They need to make a decision. But I'm fine with doing an extension for 6 months, if everybody's good with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Do we need a vote on this?
Yes.
Well, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve a 6-month extension and not to go past the 6 months.
Okay, we got a motion, we have a second.
I second.
Second by Commissioner Langston. Any further discussion? Anyone in the public on this? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries forward. Is that you, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. As you and the board are aware, during Hurricane Michael, we lost 3 lift stations, 1st Street, 20th, and Madison Street. When I say lost in their totality, we're going to have to do something different. 1st Street's been limping through for quite some time, but what's on the agenda today is seeking permission to purchase some skid-mounted pumps for 1st Street and 20th Street specifically. Myself and Mr. Smallwood's talked about this, and right now we're using borrowed pumps from the city of Tallahassee for both of those locations. So the idea would be to purchase these electric pumps and utilize electricity versus diesel, which would save us a lot of maintenance and money as it relates to that, until we can get our arms around what exactly we're going to do and what those costs may or may not be. This is, again, consider it temporary, and whenever we do make that decision, these pumps can be picked up, taken back to the shop, and redeployed, again and again. So it's not just specific to those stations. So these, the pumps you have in front of you are from Xylem, which are Godwin pumps. They're on the Florida Sheriff's Association contract, so they've been bid already, along with the work to actually install the electrical system for them.
How much money we looking at?
I believe the pumps are 22,000 apiece, and the electrical work was 7.
So about 50,000.
Around 50, Mayor. That's about correct.
And we got the money somewhere.
Mayor, we have it allocated from insurance. We have approximately, how much do we have? Roughly 100,000 for 1st Street. Is that what we have?
100,000 for 1st and 30,000 for Madison.
20th. So yes, the idea would be at this point, we need to get out from under the rentals that we're under with City of Tallahassee. Like Mr. Brown said, these could be deployed to other areas, but we could utilize our insurance money to pay for it.
What if, I'm just thinking about the insurance portion, maybe, and trying to get the best bang for our buck. Did they assess the damage on each lift station?
They told us they weren't going to assess the damage on the lift stations. You just tell us what it costs to repair them. So we've done that on about 15 of our other lift stations, and they've honored those repair costs. We haven't submitted anything on this lift station.
That's correct. We have yet, Mr. Small and myself, to sit down and say, here's what we can do for these. They're going to have to be rebuilt in their entirety. It's not just a matter of buying a pump or control panel.
Absolutely.
So that's why we just haven't gotten to that point yet. So
this is just a temporary.
It's just a temporary pump, essentially. I've been in communication with Tallahassee, and they've been very gracious, but they're getting very anxious to get their pumps back.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. So
I believe our policy is a blanket policy to a max of whatever number.
Exactly.
So I think we could probably come up with, Clay can probably help us with this, with a number on what to do on repairing these things, and maybe submitting those to insurance. So I'd probably look at that angle. If he's saying, if our adjuster's saying that, send them, what it'll take to repair them.
Yeah, and they understand that these have not been submitted and we're due to submit, requests to them for these 4 lift stations, or these 2.
And if we need to just go out for bids or whatever, work that angle and submit them, say, show them that we went out for bids and here's a low bid.
Right.
So might be a way to pay for those or pay for most of the repairs on those lift stations.
And we did have $140K in our budget for lift station repairs over the course of the year. So we had planned to make repairs, significant repairs to lift stations in our general budget before the storm.
I think they still gotta get their arms around exactly what those repairs are gonna be
Right.
on there. So this is more kind of alleviating the problem on there, but absolutely, you're exactly correct. I think we gotta work towards that maximum they'll give us toward each one of those lift stations.
How many people submitted bids? I see a bid, I'm guessing to look it up, for 7,000.
Correct.
And then the other
The
bid.
pump itself was from the Florida Sheriff Association contract. That was the low bid for the state of Florida.
And then you have one, did you only receive
I
one
did,
bid?
I only received one, yes, so
From
it's all,
I guess
that's
from
correct.
electricians?
That's correct.
How many?
Current Solutions.
And how do you get the word out? Did we let other electricians and other companies know that they could bid on it?
I did not, I just asked for a quote.
Oh, I got you.
Correct.
So if we approve this today, then the work automatically for hooking it up goes to Current Solutions?
I wanted a ballpark range of what we were looking at, that's correct. And if it's the board's desire to go back out and receive additional quotes, I'll do that. We don't have to approve the electric today. We have a 12-week lead time on the pumps, so we have time if that's the board's desire.
And I think that's what I'd be more comfortable with, to make it fair to our other local electrical
Sure.
companies.
Absolutely.
To let them, if they choose to put a bid on, but I'm fine with going ahead and ordering the actual electric pumps.
Okay.
One thing about, after I seen what I seen last week, with sewage spraying all out First Street on down to CPS, we need to get this thing done as soon as possible. So I would say, I don't know if you guys seen it or
I heard about it.
heard about it. I'm fine with someone, if someone can jump on it. But
Understood. And like I said, we do have a lead time before the pumps arrive, so if it's the board's desire to get additional quotes, we got time to do that. That's up to the board.
okay.
All right.
I'm fine with getting the additional quotes, as long as it don't affect the timing of getting this thing up and running, putting your pumps in and
Right.
getting it up and running, so I'm fine with
Yes, I don't believe it will.
All right. And we didn't advertise at all anywhere that we needed this work done? So,
No, so we didn't again because it was, under the $10,000 as far as our threshold, so no, that's correct.
so we don't have to bid it out?
No, sir. But like I said, I'll bring back additional quotes from other companies for the board.
All right. So we got a motion?
Or could we just go ahead today and approve, after you reach out to the other local electrical companies and they bid, we just to go ahead and accept the low bid based on your recommendation? So we don't have to bring it back
You don't, that's up to
again?
the board.
I mean, that's the way we should be doing business, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we probably should have gone ahead and allowed him to go ahead and make a decision, based on this, but if he goes out for bids, everybody send the bid packet. I mean, the estimate somebody else has already given us, which that's happened in the past.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that part of it, yeah.
I think staff has did its due diligence in checking this out, and I think I'm ready to approve whatever staff is recommending.
And I'm fine with that. I'm a stickler for giving other people the opportunity to get work.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
I understand now, and to that, I guess I would say that, it's been our experience here recently that this particular company's been the best priced, company that we've seen by far. So that was, part of my reason for asking for a price.
So what kind of motion we got on the floor? so I fully understand what we're doing.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the electrical pumps based on the contract price. And I'd like to, with the understanding that it will not slow the project down installing the pumps, that I would ask that Public Works reach out to other local vendors and get a price. And then after that has occurred, support whichever direction that Mr. Grantland goes with awarding the installation, and we move forward.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. We have a second.
I second.
All right, we got a second by Commissioner Langston. Any discussion? I'll just say, you know, we banged the drum to say to let staff make these decisions, and now we're taking the decisions away from them. So I don't understand where we're at. We're gonna let staff make decisions and go with their decisions, or we're gonna question their decisions?
Yeah, I agree with you, Mayor.
I don't feel comfortable questioning their decision once we've given them the go-ahead to make these kind of decisions. So that's where I stand with it right now, and there's no way I can go along with this motion as it is.
I think we've even said it in the past, and I know you've said it. Let's let staff decide.
Yeah, and I still support that. And maybe it was a little confusing to the mayor, but what I was suggesting is that they don't have to bring all the bid information to us. But I would like to see multiple bids on these projects. That's all I'm saying. I'm not second guessing the decision. I'm saying that the way the system should work is we announce to various local vendors that we have a project, and then we allow the directors of our different divisions to go with the one that they select. But before me today, the only price I have on installation work is from one company, Current Solutions. So I just think we need to involve other companies other than just one.
Maybe we need to lower the threshold.
And I don't disagree.
We set it at 10,000.
I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Huffman. You know, we just need to get it done, get the,
Yeah, and we just heard that taking the time for additional bids is not going to slow down the project. So I don't really think it's an issue.
I just hate we're even debating this issue because you in the past have stated to let staff.
Okay, gentlemen, we got a motion and a second. Any opposition to the motion? No.
I vote no.
All right. That's a tie vote. What do we do now?
I'll make a motion, let's just move forward with staff's recommendation on this. Move
All right,
forward.
we got a motion to move forward on staff's recommendation. Do we have a second to that?
I second it. We need to get this thing
All right, we got a
going.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Motion carries for it. All right, anything else, John?
No, sir, that's all, unless there's any questions for me, Mayor.
Any questions for John? Jim, you got surface water and
Yes, sir.
wastewater report?
Larry's on vacation this week. Like I said, the water quality report came back very good, so things right now are running smoothly at the water plant.
Okay,
Any
good.
questions for the water plant?
Any questions about the water plant, anybody? Wastewater.
Kevin is actually today, he has a few guys off, he's actually running the plant today, has to have an operator there. He has been working on the spray fields, making sure that they are cleaned up, and also the biological dredging is underway now.
I know he's got one guy out, hurt. Has he got it open for somebody?
We are in talks this morning that we are going to be needing a position out there, so yes, we will be advertising for more than likely an operator or an operator training.
I got you. Okay. All right. Finance man.
As Jim stated earlier, we're actively working the FEMA and our insurance. We're working those weekly. And we've completed the February financial statements, and overall, I think our revenues and expenses look pretty solid, and our cash position is still in good shape. So I think we've weathered the main storm, so to speak, and we're moving forward.
All right. Any questions for the finance director?
I know, Mike, you've been out a good bit. Somebody mentioned the other day you hadn't seen you at the meetings, but I know you're working on a lot of insurance issues and such, and I'm doing the same, and I understand.
Yeah, FEMA has been scheduling Tuesday, Thursday site visits, and we're not through. We're about halfway through with our site visits, so that's forced me to miss some meetings, but things are moving along.
Okay. Anything else for Mike? City engineer?
Yes, sir. The sidewalk project moving along, pretty good progress on it. I imagine the next couple of weeks we'll wrap that up. That's the Langston Drive sidewalk, 8th Street. If y'all been by there, it's mostly demo. They still have some more to get out, but next probably 3 weeks, I'd imagine, on that for them to finish that up. Not just the demo, but finish the whole project. So that's still several weeks out. That road will be closed, assuming good weather and all that. And then the Buck Griffin Lake, the bridge repairs at Buck Griffin Lake is out it'll be in the paper next week, and we'll receive bids on it April 12th. So hopefully your second meeting in April will have a recommendation to put those 3 bridges back there at Buck Griffin Lake. Open that back up. Those are the updates.
Any questions? Glad to see those sidewalks. Been a long time coming. They looking good. Yep. All right, Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have anything on the agenda. Board has any questions?
Anything for the chief from anybody?
Good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Code enforcement, everybody read the report from Rich on the code enforcement. I'm sure he's got a lot on his plate with Hurricane Michael and all, trying to get things straightened up and make sure things are going the way they should be going. If there's any questions, everybody? Charlotte?
I don't have anything, sir.
Nothing today?
No, sir.
All right. Citizens to be heard. Anyone in the audience want to speak today? Please raise your hand up real high. Anybody? All right. We'll go to commissioners. Commissioner Hopper, we'll start with you.
I'm good, Mayor. I think I covered the things that I wanted to cover during the meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Lowry?
I'm good as well.
Commissioner Langston?
I have a couple of things. Coming off the bridge on 98 and turning on the C on the north side, it's been hectic right there. A lot of people telling me that, they can't, if they live right here, why can't they just turn? Why was that designed like that? Is there any reason that it was designed like that, or is there anything that we can do about that? Because the police officers are going to stop them, and they're doing the job. They are going to stop them if they're going into that lane where they're trying to turn in. That definition, no turn. What can we do about that, Jim?
Commissioner Langston, I believe that was done back probably 10 years ago, I guess, when Matt Flack, I believe, was the one that done that project with the DRA. I believe the situation was when they went back and went from 2 lanes on each side down to 1, they narrowed it down, so they made a double lane where you couldn't turn. We can see if DOT would allow that. I'm not sure. That'd be something to look at to find out. But let us make a few phone calls to the FDOT to see what our options are.
Okay. There's a lot of people that's concerned, and they're getting mad at police officers for doing their job. I mean, you can't turn. There's no way that you can get in there. It's unsafe. And just if you can't do what you can, and also all the power lines and cable lines are down everywhere in town. It's been a while now, but they need to start trying to get those things cleaned up. It's kids walking around playing and pulling them. It's just going to be a liability for who, I don't know. Will it be a liability for us, or how do we find out whose lines these are? What can we do about that?
Yeah, that's something we've been working with through our staff meeting. I know the Mayor's been working on it as well. We have contacted all the utilities on that. We've contacted Consolidated, Mediacom, and the power company. Most of those fall under MediaCom, they're various. But yes, sir, MediaCom has a group, we've got a contact now. If you get a specific address, if you still see some, let us know. Yes, there's numerous ones around. Mayor and I were talking, some of them, they just rolled them up. They came by and rolled them up, but they still hadn't taken them up. So
Right.
yes, there's a lot of them that need to be done. So we'll keep working that, but yes, there is a problem.
And also, with all the workload that's on Mr. Burkett, our code enforcement, we need to get back on trying to find us another part-time code enforcement officer, especially during this time, you know. If that's still in the budget, right? And then that, we need to concentrate on trying to find us another code enforcement officer, to get some of this stuff off our our present code enforcement officer.
Where will we be with that, Jim?
We just held off, Mayor, because of our revenues are so down. We did the calculations yesterday after our bill run. We're down 360 customers on water and sewer. That equates to, if you annualize that over a year, that's about $500,000 in revenue. That I'm hoping those numbers come back. We're still down. And on the general fund side, we just kind of held off because we don't know what that's going to do until we get our numbers from July. If it's the wish of the board, we can do it. But we were looking at, like we were talking, Mayor, we pulled our numbers from where we collected on our ad valorem taxes for this past year. We levied $1,095,000. We've only collected 51%. That shows that 49% of people have not paid their taxes this past year. So our revenue is way, way down. So we've just been very cautious on filling a position for the chief and hiring anything in the general fund or anything that we didn't need. But if it's the wish of the board to try to do it, we can. We're just very cautious because our revenues are down.
Well, I understand what you're saying. If that's your recommendation, I'm fine with it. We can just hold off on it. I was just wondering, you know, that's all.
What else you got, Commissioner? And I just want to echo what he said about the wires on the ground. I mean, there's so many laying around in different areas of town, and we really need to get those companies to come by and do what they're supposed to do. I mean, you know, we're almost 6 months out of the hurricane date, and I'm sure they've been busy, I wouldn't doubt that, but also they need to clean our city up where they drop their wires at. All right, have a motion to adjourn? Second.